So, sorry, I meant to have like Spotify up. We could play Final Countdown for this dramatic moment, but in Canvas, you'll notice that I've added one last assignment, right? This is just simply the place in Canvas where you can start to upload all your deliverables for Project 3. And I've made just a quick outline list of what I want from you, right? It's a long list, but just be methodical. We've already generated most of this stuff in some way, shape, or form, okay? And we're gonna go through today and just, again, go back through, we'll start in Forma, okay? But we're gonna look at solar analysis diagrams in Forma, wind analysis diagrams in Forma, first floor plan, second floor plan, building section, building elevations, in PDF format from Revit, an axonometric drawing, the sort of 3D view of your drawing, or of your project, your pavilion in Revit. And then we'll go back into Twinmotion, we'll get 2 interior perspectives, 2 exterior perspectives. And then we'll say goodbye. All right, so let's start with Forma. Again, this is just a web app. You open up your browser, Google search Autodesk Forma. Make sure that you're signed in. And here's our site, 2240 Rim Route, Mount Charleston, Nevada. Even has a nice, what do you call that, zip code, 89124, okay. So each of you have your own proposal, right? And a while back, even though it was kind of older, a while back we brought our project in to Forma, and then we went back to Revit and started to add things to it, windows and shading components, etc. But remember, we did this on a Wednesday. We came back the following Monday to check our diagrams. I'm just going to go to my, maybe it's this one. Yeah, here we go. To my proposal. And I'm going to, first of all, look at the list I gave you guys, right? One diagram showing your pavilion from the southeast on June 21st, and then the same position December 21st. And then we'll switch to the northwest view and do June 21st and December 21st as well. Now we've already kind of done these. We just basically need to go from, let's say, the southeast, right? And I'm just going to zoom in so I can see my pavilion nice and large. It takes up a lot of my screen. And I can go back to the sun hours analysis, but I'm going to open up my history, and I'm going to go all the way back to November 5th when we did this a long time ago. And I'm just going to go ahead and open up my sun hours from June 21st, right? Okay, so now we're looking at the south and east facades. We can start to see the data mapped on it, right, for June 21st. A couple of things here. One, I can always change these display options and make sure that shadows are turned on, etc. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the camera down here. And you can see I've already done this before class. But so I'll delete these really quickly. What I can do is I can say plus. Let's add and save a camera position, right? So that way I can say this is from the, let's see, what is this? The southeast? Yeah. So I'll say southeast, and hit enter. Right, now if we accidentally go somewhere else, we can always go back to southeast and get that exact alignment, not the same way, with this thing positioned exactly the same, right? So if you're showing me like, here's what the southeast facades look like in June, and then here's what it looks like in December, show me the exact same vantage point. Don't move the camera around at all, right? I mean, that's just like design 101, right? So that's why I'm just going to save this in case I accidentally screw something up. I can go right back to it, and now you see two completely the same snapshots, just different data mapped on each one, June versus December, right? Okay, so this is June 21st, and last but not least, I can say screenshot. Let's get the screenshot with the graphics, PNG, and I'm just going to download it. It's going to download to my browser history or downloads folder, right? I'll dig it out later. So now I can go back to the history, all analyses, and I can go to December 21st. Should be in the exact same position as before, but if it's not, again, I can go and tell it southeast, right, versus this one versus that one, right? And then once I'm ready, I can say screenshot with graphics, PNG, export. There, 2 out of my 4 solar diagrams are done. Now, as you can imagine, the next thing I need to do is go from the northwest. So now I can see the north and the west facades at once. And I'm just gonna spin it around. Not gonna try to zoom in or out. So that way everything's sort of the same relative size on the screen. And again, go to my analysis and let's go back to June 21st. Ah, yeah, north is pretty shady. All the rest of the sites get some significant light throughout the daytime during the solstice. And so, again, I'm just gonna go to the camera, hit the plus sign. I'll call this northwest, right? Just in case I need it later, need it again. Screenshot with graphics and download. Yeah, taking a minute, there we go. It's telling me right there, it's downloading in my browser right now. And I'll close out of that, go back to view history. Now I'll open up the sun hours from December 21st. Double check and make sure that, oh, what the hell happened to my power here? There we go. Make sure that's set to the same camera position and screenshot with graphics download, right? Okay, all my solar diagrams are now done. Easy peasy. It just sort of works. It does it for us anyway, right? It gives us this analytics, these maps. Graphically, we can start to see the data mapped onto our surfaces, and we can start to intuitively understand how it can help us make design decisions, right? So again, just making sure that you're capturing these things so you can upload them at the end of the day, so that it sort of we capture your understanding of how these workflows work, okay? Now I can close out of that, and I can go to view history. Let's go to all analysis. Remember, this was the one that took a while, wind analysis, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and now look at that wind analysis. Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful, right? Look at that false color map with all these values of blue, right? Right now, you can see that we have two predominant directions with on our wind rows, right? So up in this site particularly, from this weather station, the weather data says that the most of our wind comes from the southwest, and the second most parts of our wind come from the north. And that probably changes both seasonally as well as sort of situationally with weather events that blow in or move in, sometimes from the north, sometimes from the southwest. That's where a lot of the weather comes from though, right? So I can go to the north and I can go to the southwest. Now it's gonna give me different graphics, right? When I'm tracking the north wind, you'll see it's different than when I'm tracking the southwest wind. So we're gonna give two diagrams here for our two predominant positions. We're gonna look at this and go, yeah, okay, I get it. Sometimes we have some northeast, northwest wind, but really the winds usually come from the from the north or from the southwest. Right, so I'm gonna go to the southwest first. That's where most of it comes from. And I'm gonna look at this. I'm gonna go down here beyond this little chart and look at streamlines. I'm gonna turn the streamlines on. That's incredibly helpful, right? These graphics, not only are they start to become intuitive for how you start to see how wind either goes over, around, underneath, or smacks into your building, where you have low pressure eddies on the other side, etc. Right? But it's fairly complex computational fluid dynamics that's happening here. And it calculated that solution for you over about an hour, somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes, a few weeks back on its own servers, and then gave you these graphics to then be able to use and look at and analyze, right? So if I turn those on, and maybe I go down to, and maybe change the amount of them, up that amount a bit, make sure the density set's 100, and I might just sort of zoom out. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fluctuate back and forth between the north and the southwest until I get one position where I can see everything all at once really well. Let's see here, south, northwest. I like this, right? We're getting pelted with north winds. And in the southwest, it sort of moves kind of a little more gently around, and then we start to cast a sort of, again, a negative pressure eddy, a shadow, if you will, a wind shadow to the northeast. All right, so once I have that located where I want it, and maybe I just sort of, again, try to keep it sort of centered up here. I don't want to be too close. I want to sort of see some of the surroundings to see where that wind's coming from, but I'm just going to toggle back and forth until I get the perfect, yeah, I like that, why not? And so now I'm gonna go to my camera, I'm gonna say save camera position, I'm gonna call this wind, right? Just in case I need to go back to it later and get the exact same position right, with, let's say, the northeast or the east wind, right? Again, this is helpful to me, but not if I keep spinning the goddamn thing around from, as they start to see different snapshots of the wind data, right? So keeping it in one place, that perfect location, take your time. That's the craft of what we do, communicating visually, right? Okay, and then, so now I can say, let's say this is the Southwest, screenshot with graphics, PNG, let's download that, export it. Okay, and let's do the north wind as well. Screenshot with graphics, PNG, let's export it. All right, we are done in Forma now for the day. Seems good. Bye, Forma. I used to do sound effects, just without even realizing it. Like, like I delete something and suddenly it blows up or something. Maybe it's my upbringing. So let's see. So now we have a set of graphics, diagrams that we can use, right? And those are the 6 diagrams that I'm asking for at the top of your list, right? So I have all this stuff on Forma ready to upload, put in the directory called 367 Final Submissions, something like that, just so I keep these things straight. If you do that more than once, then you have final, and then you have final on Friday, final, right? I recommend just trying to do one final directory and keeping things fresh inside of it. We all know how we name files iteratively and how we always sort of how we underestimate our abilities to think that we're done, and then we end up with more than one final product. Okay, so the next steps. How many are you guys getting through Forma? Yeah, take a minute or so. For those who are done, right? Next steps is we're going to go in. We're going to go ahead and make sure that our style templates are applied, and then we're just going to start bringing out floor plans. Here's a level 1 floor plan. Here's a level 2 floor plan. You can see I forgot to take off that scope box, so that's a big no-no. Need to double change and fix that. A section, 2 elevations with shadows on, and an axonometric drawing. Right? Very quick. Okay. So that's the next step. We'll open things up in Revit, and we'll do that. So take 2 or 3 more minutes here in Forma. Get that taken care of. Again, if you need a little more time after today's class, then this is being recorded, and I'll upload it in case you need to refer back to it. I've made the assignment due today, like right after class, but you'll notice that it's open until like December 10th, like midway through finals week. So if you want to do things the hard way and save it for the very end, you can. But if you're on the ball and ready to wrap this thing up sooner rather than later, you can submit it any time now. Okay. All right. Once you wrap up Forma, you can close up Forma. Make sure you open up Revit, get that file going, get it fired up. All right. Take 1 more minute or so, and then I'm going to move on to Revit. Then we'll move on to Twinmotion and get some interior and exterior perspectives, right? All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get my Revit started. Okay. Now, if you remember, it's still on Canvas. There's a page on Canvas in Project 3 where you can download some pre-made view templates that actually have some color schemes, opacities, line weights, line types, fill types, things like that already set. You can make your own or take one of those and customize it, but if you just want to use one of those straight out of the box, you can. I believe this one was number 12 or something, and it's like a blue color scheme. It's several blue values. What I'm going to do is maybe go through and change this to, I think, 11. I like 11. So it has that reddish orange. It's like kind of a vermilion red, which is my favorite color. So it's very tasteful, I must say. And I highly recommend, if you're shopping for Prismacolors and at Desert Arts or Blix, you can find vermilion red. It's outstanding. Really pops. So, anywho, You guys ready to move on? Again, we just covered the solar analysis diagrams. This is the assignment, your checklist basically in Canvas. Your wind analysis diagrams, we're done with those. We have all 6 of these, right? And now we're just going to think in terms of floor plans, building section, some elevations, and an axon, right? So all of those sort of orthographic drawings. All right. So if for some reason you need to open up those view templates and actually apply them, we do it here, right? We go, I think the instructions are actually in the Canvas page where you download them, but just to make sure, if I go to Manage and I open up one of these template files, I have my project file open, by the way, so I'm going to open up 2 files at once, right? So I'm going to go ahead and open up, and I'll look and see where these at. I think I have my own Revit assets folder under templates. Here we go, 10, 11, and 12. I'll go ahead and open up number 10. I think this is a green template, right? Green scheme. So then I can go back to my project template. I have both files open in Revit simultaneously. I go to Manage, and I can say transfer the project standards over from one of these Revit files I have open to the one I have currently open, right? So it says, well, the only other one you have open is this RD View Template 10. You want to bring that in, I can hit OK, right? A lot of you probably did that at some point. But you can pick between 10, which I think is green, 11, which is reddish or burnt orange, and or 12, which I think is a blue scheme, right? When you do that, then what you'll understand is that as we go through our drawings, step by step, floor plans, and then sections, and then elevations, and then axons, each time we'll go through and we'll apply one of those templates to our drawing, right? And we'll have to do that sort of methodically. So let's look at L1, our L1 floor plan first. And it's worth maybe watching what I do first, and then try it back at your desk, right? I'll give you some time. Hold me to that. Right, I think right now I have the wrong view template selected anyway. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this and I say, well, you know, honestly, it's cropped really strange. I'm going to turn off my scope box, right, in plan. And that way all the information bleeds off the edge of the window. So I'm going to turn off crop region, set scope box to none, turn off cropping the view, etc., until I get, you know, the entire darn site here. And then I can position this nicely in the center. Yeah, something like that. I still see my property line. I still see topography. I still see neighbors. I still see the outlines of the roads and the public right-of-way there, etc. Now I'm going to do a couple of other things. I'm going to go to View tab, and I'm going to say View Template. Let's apply a View Template. And it's going to give me a listing here. Since I've loaded both View Template 11 and 12, you can see that I have a floor plan template for both 11 and 12. I'm just going to pick 11 and hit Apply and OK. All right, there we go. I really like these things to pop. And so without really selecting anything, still in the floor plan properties, I can go to graphic display options, and then I can go to shadows, and I can turn cast shadows on and hit OK. And then one other thing I'm going to do, just so now that things really pop, I start to understand if there's some depth to this. The shadows can help with floor plans. They always really help with elevations. Oh yeah, elevations. These really kind of flat drawings that start to really pop and come through the picture. All right, so one other thing here is that you'll notice that our shadows are being cast like this direction, which makes no sense. It's coming from like the northeast, right? So I'm going to change the sun position really quickly, and that's why I want to say, just watch it, watch what I do, where I'm going, right? And then I'll give you some time to go back and start to change this stuff up. All right, so I'm just going to go down here to the sun icon. You can see that I can turn sun path on or off. I don't necessarily want the sun path on at the moment. I'm not making a diagram where I want to see how the sun sweeps across the sky. I'm just going to go to the sun settings. Here I'm going to say still, and I'm going to give it my actual location by searching for Las Vegas, Nevada. Sometime today. Here we go. I guess I have to hit the word search. Las Vegas, Venezuela. Well, that's interesting. Search Las Vegas Valley, Nevada. Where? Let's see. Weather stations. Internet mapping service. Here we go. It should give us a list. We'll go to Las Vegas Valley. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to hit OK. Then I can give it a date, and I can give it a time of the day. I'm just going to pick something kind of generic, like maybe the equinox, like September 21st-ish. And let's go with like a time in the morning. So that way the sun is in the northeast part of the sky, and we'll cast shadows, or sorry, southeast part of the sky, and we'll cast shadows to the northwest. All right, last but not least, I'm going to save settings, and I call this Josh. And that way, when we go to each drawing, we can again apply these same sun settings to the second floor plan and to the section elevations, etc. Hit apply, hit OK. You can see now that we have shadows that are moving in the right direction. Right. Last but not least, I've uncropped everything. Don't have that stupid scope box anymore. Turn on shadows, have the right template applied. I can go to File, Export. Let's export as a PDF. All right. It's going to ask you where do you want to save things. It wants to, by default, really annoyingly, just save it out in my Documents folder. That's just stupid. I'm not going to let it do that. I mean, I don't like to judge computers, but that's just dumb. 367. You know, I'll put it in specifically in this folder that I made, and I can call this, let's say, Floor Plan 01. All right. There's a couple of ways to sort of think about this. If you want a specific scale, you can actually set up sheets later on, but you can Google that to sort of find out. What I'm going to do is just simply say fit to screen and give it some sort of sheet size for our purposes. Let's go 12 by 18 and fit to page. Automatic, it'll stretch it to landscape if we do that. Hit export. Do you want to save these settings? Sure, why not? Yeah, great. And let it go. All right? So you guys ready to try this out now on your own? Again, go to your floor plan. Right? Next steps, let's start to format things. Let's turn off the scope box. Make sure we can see the entire site around us. Context, topo, right-of-ways, etc. Next step, let's apply the view template. Next step, let's start to customize things, turn on some shadows, etc. Then we can adjust where our sun position is, and then we export as a PDF. Those are the steps. Right? All right, took it just a minute or so for me, but that's essentially it. All right, so if you want to follow step by step and you need some prompts here, I'm going to go ahead and do it for my level 2, and I'll go slower and you can follow along if you need to. I'll go to my level 2. You can see, what a mess. I mean, it looks nice as far as like just a quick Revit drawing that hasn't been messed with goes. But you know, we need to do a couple of things here. And the first is, what did I say the first one was? Let's turn off our scope box, right? So let's go ahead and scroll down. Let's make sure that we turn off any cropping and scope boxes, section boxes. Let's turn all that off and hit apply so we can see the entire darn site again. L1, L2. Next step, let's apply our view template so we start to get line weights and line types, line colors comparable to our level 1, right? So again, in floor plan, I can go to the properties, turn off all my cropping and scope boxes. Now I see the entire site. Then I can go to View tab, View Templates over here in the top left, and apply a template properties to a curtain view. Right? When I do that, it brings up a box, and it asks you, okay, which view template would you like to use? You can see that there's architectural plan view templates, electrical plan templates. We had very special ones, right? They're labeled RD for the developer that created them, then presentation version 11, floor plan, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select that one, hit apply properties, and hit OK. And there we go. Level 2 is kind of interesting in that what you can see is that it's not actually showing us everything beyond an elevation, right? We should see a level 1 floor plan and elevation beyond, right? And what we're doing is, for some reason, it's x-raying it so that level 2 looks like it's just floating above the ground. And then we would just see ground underneath. That's not right, okay? So should we fix level 2? How you guys doing? Let's fix level 2. So again, we turned off the crop boxes. When I start drilling down through the drawing properties, right, I want to go to where I had the crop view and the scope boxes. I can also look at the view range, right? And there's a little button for editing the view range. It brings up a box. You can see that, yes, lo and behold, it says the view depth is only down to level 2, and then it doesn't show us anymore, right? And so right here, view depth level, I'm going to change that from level 2, and I'm just going to say, you know what? Let's just unlimit it. Let's just look down an elevation below, hit apply, hit OK, and then I'm going to go to the depth clipping. Let's see, view range, bottom, unlimited. There we go. Okay. View range, edit where we were before. View depth, unlimited. Bottom, unlimited. Hit apply, hit OK. And now we can sort of see all the way down through. All right, so we can see what's there in elevation beyond. Now, typically I would come back later, maybe in Illustrator, PDF or something, and add that little X and sort of define that this is actually open to below. That's neat for looking at basically a 48-foot tall atrium space. All right. We need to turn on shadows. Again, in the floor plan properties box, we can scroll up and go to graphic display options and go to shadows, toggle that on, hit apply, hit OK. You can see the shadows are being cast from the northeast sun, which doesn't happen all that often. So I'm going to go ahead back to my sun settings down here, and I can go to still up here. Then it shows me my Josh preset, and I can go ahead and apply that Josh preset to this one as well, right? So that we have the sun sort of projecting shadows in the same direction, floor plan to floor plan. That's important. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and save, hit Control S while I'm thinking about it. And then it's time for me to export this bad boy out. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. We're almost done here. Let's see. So it's going to put it in my 367 submission folder. I'm just going to name this Josh Floor Plan 2 or something like that. It's set to the same page size. I'm just going to go ahead and hit export. It should export it as a PDF for me. We're going to do the exact same thing with this section. We're going to do the exact same thing with elevations. Okay. So again, we'll open them up. We'll adjust any kind of cropping, scope boxes, things like that. We'll apply the template. We'll turn on shadows. We'll position it on screen for a really great graphic composition, and then we export things out. Okay. That's the floor plan. Oh, it's done. Look at that. Hot damn. All right. So let's go to our section. Now, this is section 2. It's really important that you think about this, too, for a minute. I want this section that tells the story of this project. And the story of this project is a modernist box perched on the side of a mountain, thrusting outwards and cantilevering over the forest, right? Looking out then across the valley to the north. So I'm going to draw a north-south cutting section looking east or west, right, to really tell this story. If I cut it the other direction, it looks lame. It's like, this section doesn't tell me anything about the project. It looks like it would be on flat ground in the middle of downtown or something, right? This says, oh, look, I'm on a huge slope of topography, right? This is the section I want. Anybody who tells you differently is a moron, all right? And I'm going to zoom out. I want to sort of tell the story. Again, we're sort of at this little plateau before it slopes back up and becomes Cathedral Rock, right? And so we have, you know, the ski lodge or whatever. We have this, and then it slopes way down dramatically and back up again. Okay, so I'm going to try to position this so that my section really actually tells that story and shows it's a significant part of the site. Maybe this becomes a diagram that runs along the bottom of one of my boards or posters or my, you know, whatever wall I'm uploading, right? Where I begin to start telling the story about the site, the location, etc., and then how I'm positioning this thing within it. So I've got that set. If for some reason you have a box that's sort of covering this thing up, you can always go back again and turn off scope boxes. If you have still just some sort of border around it, you can usually drag the handles and stretch it so that you can see everything that you want to see. I'm just going to get this positioned really quickly. Oh, yes. Look at that. And I'm going to go ahead and then apply the template and start turning on shadows, make sure the sun's positioned decently, and from there I can export. All right, so again, view template, apply the template, and lo and behold, just like we had floor plan templates, we have section templates. So I'll go RD presentation V11 template section, and there we are. Right? Look at that, all those values of red and orange. All right, so let's see here. Anything else I need to worry about here? Normally, when I draw a section like this, I would really emphasize like the poche. We'll just run with the view templates for now. And again, if you're interested in starting to customize these things or make your own view templates where you start adding your own hatching or own fills, changing your own line weights, adjusting those very carefully, which I recommend you do, right? And you save them and use them project to project. You can always just Google that. That's how I learned how to do it. I just Googled it, watched a 5-minute YouTube video, and then suddenly, after about 10,000 hours of practice, I was an expert on it finally. Yeah. That's what it takes to become an expert, 10,000 hours of practice. So watching a 10-minute YouTube video shows you the workflow, then you actually have to use it and utilize it in your projects for about 10,000 hours, then you're an expert. That sticks with you, okay? I'm dead serious. If you read books on how to develop expertise, 10,000 hours of practice. Starting now, just kidding, okay. File, export, PDF. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I'm gonna close this before I export. Again, gotta be methodical. I wasn't being methodical. Go to my graphic display options. Let's try to turn on some shadows. Let's cast some shadows, why not? See what that looks like. Yeah, it makes it pop a little more. Sure, why not? I'll do it. Now I'm ready to go to File, Export, PDF, and here we go. I'll call this Josh section 12 by 18, why not? Fit to page, sure. Export, why not? I'm gonna say section 2 since I already did this once. Export, let it go. For whatever reason, the next thing up, elevations, those should be straightforward. The axon, for whatever reason, when I try to export an axon drawing as PDF, it seems like it takes forever. So in that case, I'll just show you how to export a JPEG or PNG file directly. You can adjust the resolution, size of it, and settings. So we're getting through this methodically. We're done with our plans, and we're done with our sections. Next up, elevations, right? So elevations, again, looking at the facades of these things. You can see that it should have generated east, north, south, and west elevations for you already. You might need to adjust where these things are actually being cut and then looking at your building. But if I go to my east elevation, lo and behold, there it is. Oh, wow, look at that, unbelievable. So one of the things I'm gonna do is turn off the crop, turn off the scope box, hit apply, start to look at this whole thing all at once. You can see my topo, roads, neighbors, sort of nestled as little modules along this sort of path, along the topography as it changes. You can see my little stilts of steel. I'm gonna try to center this up. And okay, I need to do a couple of things. I've gone ahead and changed my scope box, turn that off. So I'm not cropping anything. Go to my view tab, and I'm gonna go ahead and apply a template. And there it is. There's an elevation template in these template files. Not a big surprise. Okay, there's that. I'm gonna go ahead and go up now in my my elevation properties. Go to graphic display options, edit, turn on shadows. Shadows are really important with elevations. I mean, it's a big difference, right? Start to make these things try to pop a little bit. Normally, this would bug me that the roof is rendered as white. What I would normally do is actually end the wall into the inside edge of into the roof. The inside edge of my walls actually have my walls extend up past them. So at an elevation, you just read walls. Normally, you do that anyway because if you have, for for instance, if you're thinking about a parapet at all, then the wall extends out past the parapet. This is 367, not construction technology. So we'll just roll with it and let it do its thing. So here's the east elevation. The east elevation is really important to me because, as you can see, I have a matrix of windows, small punched openings that then allow sort of volumetric light rays to sort of stream in certain mornings. So if you're there at certain times of the year, in the morning time, you get a real treat, and you can hashtag it, Mount Charleston, sunlight porn or something like that, right? So, it's just incredible, right? So, yeah, let's try that. So let's go with the east elevation, and I'm gonna go ahead and say File and Export, and I'll create a PDF of that. And let's call this east elevation. Yeah. 12 by 18, okay. Now, a couple of you, I'm gonna show you this with the south elevation. It might actually be cutting a section through your building, and you don't want that, that's not an elevation, that's a section, right? So let me show you a couple of things how you can work around this. So for instance, if I go to my site plan, I'm just gonna go in my properties, my project browser to site plan. You can see that here's my south elevation. And you can see that when I select that elevation marker, it's showing me in top view, the top edge of my plane, where it's cutting a section and looking out towards my building, right to the north. It's a south elevation, so it's looking north from the south, right? And I can select that plane and start to move it to position it, okay? Now, if you don't see this with all your elevations, like my elevation markers for east and west and north are missing, right? Okay. What you can do instead, let's say, for instance, I need a west elevation. My west elevation is all crumped up, right? It won't show me the elevation marker in plan, so I can't move it to sort of determine where it's actually looking. What I can do is I can actually just go back to the plans and draw a section. I can draw a section that cuts through the landscape just west of my building, looking east at the west facade of my building in elevation. And it's essentially the exact same thing. Just like we would do with an elevation, we can do it here. So what I can do is I can go to my site plan, I can go to section, and what I can do is I can cut a section to the west of this, looking east, so looking at the west elevation of my building. And then that new section should show up down here, section 3 maybe? Yeah, and there it is, right? There's the west elevation of my building, and then it, again, whatever ground curve that I have, okay? So I can call this elevation. I can go here and start to, again, I can go to view template, apply template, and go ahead and apply that bad boy. There it is. I'm not very fond of how it's doing the windows with that. I've never been fond of that, but it is what it is. There's my west elevation. It's pretty lame, actually, right? The south elevation, my east elevation, my north elevations, all more interesting than my west elevation at the moment. That it tells me that there's a specific reason for being plain on the west side, or maybe I need to rethink my west side if that's the case. But I can go ahead and export that. Let's look at the north elevation. Okay, look at the north elevation. I have some work to do here. First, let's turn off the scope box and stop cropping things. Just darn it, that just really throws everything off. Oh, here we go. Now I need to apply my template. I'm actually going to show those columns actually hitting into the ground. Let's see. View template, apply template. There we go. Yeah. I'm going to turn my shadows on. Oh yeah, look at that. And I'm ready to export that, right? So going through and just, again, getting through, trying to get 4 elevations. If you can't get all 4, I'll make an allowance in the elevations. Show me the 2 most interesting ones. The south, and maybe, in east or west view, which one's more interesting, right? I mean, we kind of get the gist anyway from that. It's a modernist box. There's not a lot going on. It's not like the geometry changes drastically or anything. Okay. But essentially, I'm looking for you to give me some elevations. There's my south elevation with all of my shading components, right? Ah, makes me think back to the grid shells. Oh, what a fun time that was. Yeah. Lessons learned. Here's my plans. For some reason, they ended up like that. Maybe I had a wrong setting selected. They should look more like this. Yeah. Except with this not being cropped. Okay. You guys ready to see an axon? We have time. Let's take 4 more minutes, then we'll move on to the axon. This is the last thing, probably the easiest thing to do. And then we'll move into twin motion for the last half an hour. Sound good? For those of you watching, if I just simply start closing some of these things, let's see. Look at all these plans and elevations, section. I'll turn these off for a moment. I'm just going to go to the 3D view, default 3D view. And again, I'm looking over here. It's by default, it's set to axonometric projection, not perspective projection. So it's a paraline drawing. And I can again start to click that box and see front, side, or in this case, southeast view. Right? This is the one I want to see, southeast view. So I'll go ahead and click southeast view, and I'll zoom in on this, get it just right. So that's sort of in the center. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my view template, apply a view template. There's number 11, 3D view template. There we are. Look at that. Going to go ahead to graphic display options in the properties and turn on my shadows. I'll cast ambient shadows along with casting sharp shadows. Why not? And if everything's all set, and I have no crops or anything, I'm ready to export. Slightly different, right? If you go to File, Export, and you can see we have CAD formats, and we have the PDF settings that we've been using before. You have to scroll down, and sometimes they're hidden until you scroll down to find the images and animations. And then there's several things here. There's a walkthrough, there's solar studies, and there's image. So I just want a static image of this axon. That's the path. File, pull down, export, images and animations, and then image. All right. When I click that, it's going to give me another set of settings. Visible portion of current window, fit to, let's go 3,000 pixels. Let's make it so it's pretty sizable. What kind of view? JPEG, let's go lossless JPEG, so higher quality. I can actually up the image quality or resolution too, depending on how I start to adjust these settings. But from there, I'm just going to hit OK. And, I'm not going to overwrite this. I'll just go ahead and give this a different name. First of all, let's put it on my desktop in this 367 submissions. And we'll call this Josh Axonometric or something like that. And hit OK. Now, that shouldn't take too long to then generate that. In fact, it's complete. Oh, wait, that's PDF export. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here it is. Josh Axonometric. There it is. 3,000 pixels wide by whatever you call the aspect ratio wise from your screen. Alrighty? It's a lot to do, I know. Little things. Right? I, again, think in terms of like, okay, now it's time to pretty all these things up and make sure they're all talking the same language. Right? Once you finish that up, you're done with Revit for this class. Hooray. Take another minute or two to finish up if you need to. And then I'll move into twin motion. Really quickly, I'll start talking about twin motion. Some of it will be repeat from the other day, but I'll be recording it this time. So that posting will be up on Canvas for you if you need to refer back to it. For this class or for something that you're trying to do in studio if you want, right? So again, think about how that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, we're doing stuff in this class, but it's in service of a larger project of architecture, right? Like I grade certain outputs from you, but really the key thing is I'm trying to make sure that you're learning some valuable skills you can apply immediately in your own design work, right? That's important. So always be thinking about how these things actually help you. But what we'll do is we'll start to generate some exterior and interior perspectives quickly. Okay? In twin motion. All right. Anybody need me to back up and show anything else in Revit before I close it down? I mean, again, you can always rewatch the video to try to move the time marker to the position you want to watch. But okay, all right, fair enough. I'll go ahead and save, Control S, and I'll close this bad boy out. And I can even close Windows now. Haha, yeah, all right. All right, so we just took care of all this. First floor plan, second floor plan, building section, building elevations, axonometric drawing. Last but not least, let's go ahead and do some interior and exterior perspectives, right? With lighting, shadows, and shaders. And of course, in the exterior, lighting, shadows, shaders, and then some of that landscape flora components that we can start to spray and paint onto our what otherwise is a pretty pedestrian-looking mesh. All right. Twin motion. Oh yeah, look at this twin motion. Look at those clouds. That looks like Las Vegas just yesterday, right? With all the vapor starting to come off the rocks. Anyway, anybody get a bunch of rain yesterday? I did. Yeah. At one point, it started pouring down. I was just like, holy moly! Like, I like rain, but do we have to get it all at the same time? You know. Anyway, do you want to save? No. Just open this up, please. All right. So I'm opening up the same file I've been working in. Since we started doing these demonstrations over the last week and a half, right? You can see here just the outside of my pavilion. I've added tree stumps, sky leaves, shaders, some rocks. Really what we're missing here are the trees. The trees are just really heavy computationally. And so I'm going to leave those off for a while until I actually have to turn them on, right? Just because it's, for some reason, my machine really hates some of those trees I picked. Maybe I should just pick certain pines and been done with it, but I picked like 3 or 4 different varieties of trees, started populating this thing, and it just like really slows down incredibly. All right, so let's think about this for a minute. The first time we started opening up Twin Motion, we started looking at the multi-lister and cleaning that up, so I have all my windows in one place, all my site massings in one place, all my steel in one place, all my floors in one place, right? I can start to assign materials all willy-nilly. We talked about materials and Megascans as the sort of library of shaders, right? Materials that you can begin to apply to these objects. Right? This time, what I'm going to talk about is media. Sorry, we use populate to then begin to spray vegetation on, right? Today, and what we did on Monday, we'll go back and forth between media and export. And oftentimes we'll find ourselves going to the ambiance setting up here in our multi-lister to bring up things like environment, camera, render settings, and special effects settings. Okay? All right. So first things first, if we go to the media, this allows us to begin to position our camera exactly what we want to look at, frame it up so we get everything on the frame exactly the way we want it compositionally, and then to save that exact view. Where the camera is, where the frame is, where everything's located, what things are on or off, the time of day, kind of here, etc., right? All right, so all these settings that we begin to customize. So if I wanted to, let's say, get some sort of interesting perspective of this thing, let me do that. I can go to the camera settings. I'm in ambiance to bring up these settings over here, the ambiance settings, environment, camera, render, FX. I'm going to go to camera. A couple of things to remember with the camera. I mean, you can adjust things like exposure, white balance, and tints. We'll actually adjust some local exposure when we need to. We'll start to brighten shadow areas and then tone down some of the brighter hot spots, highlights. But I can go to lens, I can start to make this wide angle and start to see more or less. And as I do that, you can see sometimes the camera goes so wide angle or fisheye that the verticals get really strange. So I can also turn on parallelism in order to make sure to try to sort of compensate for that sort of massive distortion as you start to go wide angle, right? So if I go wide angle, right, without that parallelism, all the sort of vertical stuff begins to either go out inwards or outwards, right? You start to get a three-point perspective. Typically, we try to constrain these things to 2-point perspective. Look at good architectural photography. Good architectural photographers do that as well, right? They do the lens correction to try to keep the verticals as vertical as possible, unless they're telling a specific story, looking straight up at a skyscraper, and they want it to taper to a vanishing point. That's different. But otherwise, you try to keep those verticals true as much as you can. So anyway, we can go with lens, field of view, and then we can also, again, turn on parallelism to make sure that we're not doing something so crazy that it gives people like nightmares or headaches looking at it. Okay. And once I have this exactly where I want it, let's say right around here, I can hit this plus sign, right? I'm in the media tab here. Hit the plus sign, you can see that it's now going to save this. It's calling it image 4, right? I think I can rename it if I wanted to. Yeah, here we go. I can click on the ... rename it if you have a specific label for it. One thing I'm going to do, it's remembering that when I hit that plus sign, that certain things were on and certain things were off. All my layers were turned on except for my trees. So if I turn my trees on, surely I can find a better view of this thing through the trees. Yeah, something like that. What I need to do, if I want to then sort of reflect the changes I've made, change my camera position, turn on the trees, I can go to image 4 and I can say, let's refresh image 4. So now it's going to remember those settings. Refresh all those settings that it does. So I'm going to hit this little circular arrow thing, and that says refresh, updates the image with the sort of match the current status of the scene, right? So you don't have to create a new one and delete the old one. You can just refresh the old one to take on the new properties. All right. So there's a couple of things I'm going to talk about here just momentarily. But suffice to say, in environment, there's a number of settings we can begin to play around with. Just begin to talk about, again, some of those qualities of place that we know, certainly like what we know Mount Charleston has. We can give it weather, right? We can change the sky to clear, partly cloudy, fully cloudy, dramatic monsoon cloudy. We can change the atmospheric density. We can change the time of the year or the season. When I change this, let's say from dry to wet, or from summertime to wintertime, if I go to wintertime, of course, we're going to start getting snow up in Mount Charleston. That's a given. And so you'll start to see it be covered, sort of snow-covered forest and ground, and some of the tops of your surfaces will also have snow on them, etc. And of course, we can also do the same thing with leaf canopies. We can start to give them, sort of fall colors, or have things that aren't conifers and evergreens. We have deciduous trees, make them lose their leaves, and etc. Right? So there's some settings to play around with if you'd like. You notice that the sky, the clouds are slightly moving across the sky. You can notice it if you sort of pay attention and watch. And same thing with the trees. The trees have a little bit of wind, breeze to them. They start to move a little bit, the leaves in particular. So if I go to render, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let me go up to the top of this window here. And sometime today, it's because these trees are on. I'm going to turn the trees off for a moment. That way Twinmotion is actually responsive. Every once in a while, I'm also going to just save, right? So that as I start to adjust things, I'm saving them, right? So for some of you, if you have Path Tracer, toggle that on, right? What it means is that you have the right NVIDIA video card GPU that works with Unreal. So you can do these sort of multi-thread renderings, and the quality is actually significantly better, right? You can start to really play around with effects. MacBook Pros don't have that for whatever reason. Apple and Unreal are like building a bridge from one side and someone's building a bridge from the other side. But if they don't meet in the middle, then what the hell's the point? You know what I mean? So, but I am turning it from standard to lumen, and then I can start to adjust things like the detail, how much I see, Try to find that sweet spot between accurate lighting versus the speed of the lighting that's sort of bouncing and being calculated. When it comes to reflections, I can go optimized or full, right? Again, sort of trying to understand, like, there's a trade-off, right? I can either make this thing lighter when I'm trying to make decisions, or it takes more computation, but I can get something more accurate, right? Same with shadows. I can turn shadows up or down. The bias, darker or brighter. I'm just going to go bias. I'm just going to go really close to the end there on bias. You can go with effects. You can start to talk about contrast, saturation, color gradient. If I turn down the saturation, I start to lose some of that color, right? Of course, you can always do that afterwards in post in Photoshop, right, as you know. So let's see, camera, render, environment. Let's go to camera. And one of the things I'm going to do, let's see, camera. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go to local exposure. This is really handy, right? I'm in camera, and I go down to exposure. There's a setting called local exposure. And that gives me a chance to talk about the bright spots and adjusting how bright or how dark I want them. And then the shadows, right? So you can see the two extremes, and then begin to sort of brighten or darken, add more contrast or less contrast, right? And here's why I bring that up, right? I'll show you the examples from last time. So this is an example from the last time. This is my first time sort of looking at this sort of east facade. You can see how the dark stuff was too dark. So I went back and I brightened up just the shadow part, right? If I brightened up the entire thing, then the bright stuff would be way too bright, right? So you can begin to adjust those extremes to the norms that you want so that you can start to see this thing easier. Then by this time, I'm starting to get a little brighter. And then, oops. Come on, just open up. Here we go. And then by this time, they're significantly brighter. So I'm always adjusting these things, exporting out, looking at it, making more adjustments. It's an iterative exercise, rendering, right? You don't want to just give it what it spits out at you, especially if it doesn't look right or it's too muddy or too dark, too bright, etc. Right? All right. So we'll run with this for right now. I'm going to go to the image tool here. Let's see, and I'm going to say, first of all, you can adjust your roll angle if you're like somehow off there. But I'm just going to, holy crap, I'm just going to change that to 0 if I can. Right there we go. And then you can also talk about output size. So you can go 2K, 4K, 8K. It gives you a resolution, target resolution that's looking for in size of pixels. Aspect ratio, it's always the width and then the height for the first and second robot. And then, so you can begin to adjust these settings right here before you then go to the export, right? So we talked about toggling back and forth between media and export today. So we're still in media. We're just double checking some things. No, this is fine. I'm just going to, again, look at that width and height. For the first couple of tests, I'll probably keep that at 2K. Then when I get something I really love, then I'll do the 8K version, right? When the settings are tuned in exactly the way I want them. So let's go to export. And you can see, right, that there's, doing under local, image, whatever. I'm just going to go to the image. You can see that I had selected this one originally. I'm going to say deselect and go ahead and hit this image. It's going to do just one for me right now. I can turn a few more things on or off if I need to, but I'm just going to say leave it by default PNG. I don't really need to look at those details. And when I scroll all the way down, I can say start export. And it's just going to, again, it's going to ask me, where do we want to save this PNG or JPEG that you're doing? I'll put it at 367 submission. And then there it is. It'll give you an estimation. Mine's been sort of estimating like 4 minutes, somewhere between 3-4 minutes with a 30 seconds later, it's done. So it hasn't really been taking that long. Okay, it's like 7, then down to 3, now down to 2, right? So maybe about a minute, 40 seconds, something like that. Which again is not long to wait for a quality rendering, like at all. I remember back in the days like of using Maya and things like that in the early aughts, late 90s, It would take like days to produce a rendering. It was ridiculous, the rendering time. Okay, it's done. And here it is, right? So there's a couple things to really watch out here. Shadow bias and shadows, there's something off here between my roof and my walls. I need to fix that. I'm getting shadows looking right, a little bright. The highlights are a little brighter than I probably want. And I might actually adjust the way I'm looking. You know, maybe it looks like I'm looking down Kyle Canyon again. I can see desert off in the distance. But I have a horizon problem here. I'm not so happy about that. I can either try to solve it here, or in post-production later on in Photoshop, I can start to collage some things into that background. Right? Okay, so again, use all the tools at your disposal for this. I'm not so worried about this for our class, but when it comes time for your studio stuff, right? I mean, you don't want to like print something out, spend a lot of money, pin it up on the walls, and then it looks like garbage, right? You don't want to put your name on the highest quality stuff you can do, right? So anyway, so again, I'm going back and forth between media and export. If I go back to media, and I select this stuff, and I go back to ambiance up here in the multi-lister, I can go back to, let's look at environment, effects, and render. Let's go to render first. Let's see what I can do. I can turn what looks like a really kind of weird shadow and brightness quality here. Let's look at this. And then let's actually bring down our shadow bias. There we go. Maybe that's better. Now if I adjust shadows upwards, let's see what happens. I'm sort of looking at this in real time, understanding that it's trying to calculate a bunch of things. I'm not getting the full resolution here. But I am going to just sort of, again, look at this. Okay, I like the shadows back down this direction. What I'm trying to do is get rid of this little highlight here. It looks like almost like there's a gap there between my roof and my wall, right? And so let me try this. I changed a bunch of things. So first of all, sorry, this ended. I have to go back here and say, let's go ahead and refresh the view, right? Then I can go back to export. Let's try this again. Now, what happens is that my shadows might be too dark. Then I need to go back to my settings, adjust what do you call it? The shadow exposure upwards to make it a little brighter, just the dark's a little brighter. So in the meantime, let's come down here and hit Start Export. And yeah, let's put it there. Why not? Let's see what new thing it pops up here. Right, so it's about going back and forth on the inside and the outside. Once I get this calibrated, right, I can re-render this interior. I got rid of this rock. I started turning on the trees. I might need to change the reflection because there's something weird happening down here at the bottom when it comes to reflections. I might also adjust where the sun's coming from, just so we start to get some of those God rays in from the side or something. Still exporting, 2 minutes left, 0 minutes left. There we go. Okay, so we fixed some of those issues. And yeah, it's a little darker in here. Maybe I want to go back and start to change and adjust things. It's really dark up here. It's less dark on my screen. That's the other interesting thing, right? When it comes to these graphics, these images, I'm sure you've noticed this as you start to print things out for studios, right? Like you almost have to like turn down the brightness on your screen like 50% to understand what it might look like when you print it out, because it's always darker and muddier. There's less contrast. There's less brightness, right? I mean, we've all been there, right? We get we pay lots of money for like these glossy prints, and we go, oh, I wish I could have that one back, right? So anyway, some things to think about. But let's say I'm good for now with that. Again, I can toggle back and forth between these different views. I'll turn on my trees, let's see, and refresh this dude. Let's see here. Turn them on. Then refresh it. Right, when I go to export, I need to go back up. I'll turn these off so this thing starts to actually respond. And I need to go back up to the image that I'm actually doing. I can pick more than one scene, right, to sort of render at once. I'm gonna go ahead and deselect and then just select this one, and then go ahead and hit Start Export. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that one. and then I'll go into the interior, right? The interior is interesting because oftentimes what you'll find is that it's like you're looking through like an 80 millimeter lens, like you're much too zoomed in. When you zoom out, to actually begin to give yourself the sort of peripheral vision that your view has, like 28 millimeter or so, right? Then it starts to get really distorted, so you have to turn on parallelism. So I'll just show you that in a minute here. 3 minutes, 58 seconds. It'll soon turn down to like 2 minutes and then 1 minute and 0 seconds. So let's see. There we go. Yeah, and then now it's done. Right, there it is. Okay. I need to change that shadow setting again. It just really bugs me when it does that. So if you're having these issues, again, for anybody that's sort of looking at this and going, why do I have brightness right there? These things are actually flush. They shouldn't be letting light in. What I'm doing is I'm going back in to the media set. Let's see, going back into the ambiance settings to, is it camera or render? Let's look at render. Shadows. Let's look at the shadows. Yeah. And what I'm doing is I'm turning the shadow bias down all the way down to the bottom. And I'm turning the shadows down a bit. That shadow bias should be like all the way down. I don't know why it just moved on me again. Stop it. There we go. Yeah, not too bad. And then from there, maybe I'll go ahead and look at global illumination. Let's look at camera. There's local exposure. And if I turn this down a little bit, it basically turns down the darkness of the shadows a lot or a little bit. Let's see. Let's try to find a sweet spot there. And then I can go ahead and re-render this. So I'll go ahead and turn on the trees. I'll go ahead and update this. Hit the little refresh arrows there. Come on now. And then I can re-render it. Right. Shall we move on to the interior? It sounds good, doesn't it? There it is. All right. Now again, I'm just going to go back to camera, and I'm going to turn off this parallelism if it's on, so you can see what I mean, right? So when I start to move in and I start to adjust the focal length of my lens, let's say the 13 millimeter, right? Even 18 millimeter, right? We're starting to get the verticals start to close in on themselves. It starts to look really distorted, like a fisheye. That's what I'm talking about when you go down further into these lens settings. Come on, there we go. All the way towards the bottom, there's parallelism, and that tries to bring the verticals and try to make them true verticals again. Now I can reposition myself here at eye level and start to appreciate the roof and the openings. Again, I can go back to environment. In fact, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to chart changing the time of the day. And let's start to get some morning sun in here. It looks like the north offset might be off a little bit. There we go. There. Now we're getting some morning sun in. Yeah. And it looks like, again, annoyingly with this one, I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh. I need to go back to my camera settings. Is it camera? And go to exposure, local exposure. I might turn down the shadows a bit. I'm going to go to render settings, and here's where I'm going to find those shadows. I'm going to turn the shadow bias all the way down, turn the shadows down a bit here, and let's try it. I'm going to go ahead and refresh. I'm going to go to export, go back up and tell it the right thing to export, hit that image, unselect everything, just select this one. All right, now I'm going to go ahead down to the bottom and say start export, right? So again, the workflows are a little odd, but once you get the hang of them, you actually, by the time you're done rendering your project, you'll remember them, you'll get them really fresh. And then then you go home for winter break, forget them all again, and that's how it works usually. By the time it got easy, I was already done. All right, let's see. Let's see how this thing looks, right? And again, I can begin to further tweak settings. Again, what I would recommend doing, especially now that everybody has just smartphones and their cameras on their smartphones, is take photos of the settings before you start to adjust them, in case you do something really bad and you need to adjust them back. All right, so, but again, just try to adjusting certain things, a little bit iteratively until you get something that you like. That's a little on the bright side. So what I might do is actually tone down the highlights and then turn up the shadows a bit. Yeah. Let me just try that one more time, but we're getting close to the end, right? And again, once you have all of these, 2 interior perspectives, 2 exterior perspectives, go ahead and just upload them. I don't think there's anything stopping you from uploading the things you already have done, even if you haven't, gotten the exterior perspectives done yet or something, right? I think you can upload multiple attempts. I don't think there's a limit on that. All right, so again, and if you think that there's an issue uploading at any time between now and the very end of the semester, just again, email me. I do want to sort of say that, again, this is our last meeting time, official meeting time, but I will be here during class time in my office if anybody needs additional office hours to sort of finish anything up. I'm around. Maybe not on finals week. Finals week is a weird one because I don't actually have finals. I've taught for 25 years. I've never given a quiz or a test because, like what would it be, like true and false or multiple choice? I don't get it, right? Like the studio doesn't have tests. You have projects, right? Everything's project-based. Anyway. But anyway, again, I'll probably see most of you out in the hallways from time to time. Of course, the spring semester, but it's been a pleasure. Glad to get to know all of you guys. I hope this has been helpful for you. I'm still here to help if you need it, just not formally in class meeting times anymore. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to winter break. I'm just so weary and tired. I know you guys are exhausted. Like last week was a whirlwind. On Thursday, I left town. By Friday evening, I was in Saudi Arabia, gave my lecture. By Sunday morning at 6 a.m., I was back on a plane and back here by 2 a.m. on Monday, and then had class at 2. So this is like that's my life now, 24/7. I do work around the clock in Seoul, in Dubai, in London, 17 hours, 13 hours, 8 hours, right? I know all the time zones now. I'm constantly awake and doing weird things, unfortunately. So let that be a lesson, right? When you do things really well and you're known to do quality work, there's a market, right? And even if the market's down in the United States, there's a market somewhere. Not every country is cutting their budgets and uninvesting from everything, right? It's amazing when I leave just how much I see other countries building the future. It feels like you're living in the future sometimes. When you go to Japan or China or Abu Dhabi or something like that, right? So Riyadh. So keep that in mind, right? There's a market anywhere. There's talent everywhere, but there's markets everywhere, right? So try your best. Always make sure that you're doing your best before you print it out or send it off in an email or whatever, right? That it reflects well on you. Hopefully I've given you some tools and workflows to demystify things enough that you can continue to learn, right? We've only scraped the surface, but hopefully now you have a little more confidence with tools like Grasshopper and Revit and Twinmotion and Forma and Rhino, etc. So Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever it is, right? That's the key, right? Lifelong learning. That's the one thing that I would stress the most, right? You have to continually evolve with the times. Technology only gets faster, and so you have to sort of keep up and keep up to date. All right, and last but not least, computers can spit out anything, right? Garbage in, garbage out, as they say. But really, it's the innately human to be able to say, this is more successful than that, and here's why, right? Safety, ethics, morals, situational awareness, cultural, whatever it is, right? Those are things that can't be replaced and automated, right? So lean into those. These tools are helpful, but really, they can execute. You have to, again, decide, scaffolded problems, understand what's good and bad, be able to apply your empathy and ethical frameworks to it to understand what actually can be built. Okay, last words. I'll see you guys around.